These are some of our lovely filmmakers, and we're kind of just going to go down the line with them, and I want to know just a little bit about you guys as people, as filmmakers, as creatives, whatever you feel is worth sharing for us to get to know you, and maybe like some of your goals or some of the stuff you wanted to do with your film or in the future, just in general.
Just pull up to
Yes, and then it'll light up for you.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, my name is Isabella Vitali. I am a current senior at High Point University, so just about 3 hours away. I made When Time Stands Still, one of the short documentaries. Life goals, I guess. Well, number one is to get a job, I know, trigger warning job. But I really want one of those when I graduate in about 30 days. That would be awesome. I love working in live-to-tape scenarios, kind of like how Smosh and Good Mythical Morning work. I'd love to do something like that. But yeah, with our documentary, we were doing it in class, and it became what it came. So I'm excited to see if you guys want to know about it.
My name is Schweitzer. I'm a recent graduate of UNCW. I was a film studies major here, and I created Starburners. I do a lot of experimental film, and I also enjoy doing cinematography and narrative work as well. I work here currently and do videography for athletics events.
Hello everyone, my name is McGowan. I'm I believe a 7-year filmmaker. I do a lot of directing, DPing, and editing. Here to represent the home turf at the Reel Teal Film Festival. Director of 59. I'm a senior here at UNCW, and I got a lot going on, got a lot of new projects in the works, and if you like what you saw tonight, you ain't seen nothing yet, so.
Hey guys, I'm Dominic Laurel. I'm the director of Melting Pot. I'm a 3rd-year film student here at UNCW, and I'm an aspiring stunt performer and action designer.
Is this yeah, it is working. Okay, anyways. Hi, I'm Joey Thomas. I'm here representing the film Denise. My friend Vanessa directed it, but she couldn't be here tonight, so I'm here in her place. I am a screenwriter and actor, and I'm a student here at UNCW. I'm a senior, and I guess, yeah, I graduate next semester, so that's like terrifying.
Hello, my name is Jack Floyd. I'm the director and DP of Matchmaker. Recent Western Carolina grad, primarily cinematographer, editor, any other thing needed. I do it all. But yeah, that's why I'm here.
Hey y'all, I'm Melanie Lech. I made Broken Fairy Tale, the music video, which was the one with the castle. And I do a lot of different random things, but they're all pretty much creative. I like doing videos, music, and comedy stuff. So yeah, and then, oh yeah, I also, I was the artist in the video too, so I make music as Melanie Penelope. And then making these videos got the attention kind of some, like, a little bit bigger people, so now I'm in a band called Pale Catherine, and I have an indie label behind me, which is really cool. Okay, that's all I think.
Well, great, guys. I know that some of you traveled, so I just wanted to thank you again for being here. But we just have, me and Mattieann have like one question for each of you guys, and then we're going to kind of open it up to everybody else. My first question was for you, Melanie, actually. We were like really impressed and like taken back by like the set and the design and like all of the costumes and stuff. We just thought that it was all very lovely. We were kind of wondering like, how did that happen? Where did that all come from?
Was that one for me? Sorry, was
That one for me?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. You said the sets, the costumes, how it came together?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I thought you said Madeline, and I just go. Sorry. Okay. So the castle. This was so cool. So I basically like accidentally befriended a guy who has been building that castle for about 10 or 12 years or something, which is pretty crazy and cool. I found the castle like from a Facebook group. I was curious about it, and he was really interested, or he really connected with the song that I had written because he was going through a kind of difficult romantic situation as well. And yeah, his name's Robert, by the way. He's great. And then the costumes, shoot, oh my gosh. One of the costumes, I'll be honest with you, it's just like a Disney Rapunzel costume. And I mixed it with some things that I found on Amazon. And I thought, this looks pretty good, it works, man. And then my friend Manda brought her costume. Manda was the redhead who was in the video. And then her fiance, they kind of dressed themselves for it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Mostly like the shout out goes to Robert for building such an awesome castle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is for Dom. Could you please tell us about your experience with tricking and what the tricking community is like? Were they open to you bringing a camera and stuff?
I feel like there's a lot of filmmakers that kind of mingle with the tricking community, mainly because, a lot of them are trying to be stunt performers, kind of like myself, and having a camera, learning on a camera is something that's really important for that, and also just being comfortable near cameras. And there's been a big wave recently of tricking sort of kind of breaking into media, so with organizations like Adrenaline Worldwide. Actually, they're called Adrenaline Tricking League now, sorry. They're like kind of trying to get televised and do big events around the world, and so like I feel like a lot of the tricking community is very open to media presence, I guess you could say. So they were open to me having a camera there too.
Next, Ruby, we're gonna interview you.
We were really curious about like some of the processes of like how you were able to achieve some of the effects and like the textures and stuff like that, especially like in the editing process.
Yeah, the process for Starburners, I was really interested in using footage of just kind of stuff I saw in my everyday life and taking it and abstracting it and focusing on just like light and color and making it more almost like painterly in a way. One of my favorite shots is like close-up of light reflecting on a slot machine that I saw, and it's like kind of rainbow and colorful and it's beautiful, but it's like it's a slot machine. And another one is one of those ones that's like where you like put the quarter in and it kind of pushes all the other quarters off. And then there's shots of like the wall when I was out with my friends and the light was on it really beautifully, and I got a shot of that and I'm like overlaying it with other things. But the goal is to just make like focus on like texture, like you said, and color.
That's awesome.
Okay, our next question is for you, Isabella. I'm gonna be honest with you, every time I watched your documentary, I did cry.
Same.
How did you approach this sensitive subject? Also, what motivated you to make this documentary?
So, myself and Brady, the director, we took a documentary class. It was the first time our university offered the class, and when we were told about the class, our professors emailed us and they're like, don't do anything related to the school at all. We don't want to hear it. And I was like, oh, maybe that ruins my idea, because my idea, which you guys saw, that's my boss. I'm a university photographer for High Point. And my freshman year, unfortunately, his son Gabe passed away in a very serious car accident. And when I first thought of the idea, I asked my professors if I could pitch it. They said yes. And I originally was like, I'm going to make something about how he kept the claw machine business alive, because you're kind of memorializing something by immortalizing it. That was my original thought. And then myself, Brady, and our third person in our group, Adriana, we sat down with Lee, who was the father, and we did a 2.5-hour pre-interview and realized that's not the story that we should be telling. We should be telling the story about how everyone is always telling someone with mental illness, don't do anything that you would regret, because there's people that are gonna miss you. They're gonna miss you, but you never really see that sort of grief portrayed in media, and you don't really see how people miss you, and that's what we kind of wanted to show, is that your presence, no matter how big or small, has such a deep effect on somebody's life, and you're always so valuable, and no matter what you're going through, you're always gonna have somebody that's gonna want you here. And when we came to approach the topic, I kind of just asked Lee, I was like, hey, as your student photographer, as someone that went through this with you, how would you feel if we made something like this? And him and his wife, Gail, were so on board with it. They think Gabe's story is so important. especially coming from a very small town in North Carolina, they kind of wanted to see how the story can be brought kind of to the masses, and we were able to show it to our university. So it was kind of just, we were lucky that they were so open with us, kind of.
That's lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Martin, we were very humored by how relatable your film was. We kind of had a two-parter for you, but like, what did you do for like to make that transition on the beach be so smooth? Did you have a process there? And then we were also curious, is this in fact based on a true story?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Like about the transition on the beach, like how did you come out, or how did you?
Oh.
Thank you. How did you go about like getting the transition to be as smooth as it was?
Well, I'm really glad you asked, because I knew from the beginning of writing this film, in fact, for my 210 class, shout out to Luca Weinberg, by the way, if y'all know him, I knew from the very beginning that that cut would make this film kind of really come into its own. I knew in some way, like, I knew that the cut would really, I'd say, like, accentuate the feeling of just, like, getting an assignment done, like, in a buzzer beater, that makes sense, you know? So I think, so I knew this would require some really good execution, and one benefit that I do have, that I did have, was that I actually shot on 2 different cameras, and this being one of them, in fact, by the way. And I remember, so we shot the beach scene first that day, so we shot everything in one night, but the beach scene was shot first, and what we did for that was I shot with one of the cameras here, around 50 millimeter, and I just knew, okay, how to be pretty, like a complete side shot in a sense, to the subject being Lori, of course, and then I knew that going into shooting the inside scene where it transitions from, that shooting from a different camera would make sense, because then, this is gonna get a little bit technical, so try to bear with me, I could use the screen, like the playback of the footage from this camera here, as a reference to recreate with the equivalent lens on camera B. So basically, I just lined up the focal lengths and just the composition of the shot, which was already pretty simple from the beginning, just to make the process a lot easier. But another safeguard as well is that I actually had my computer with the editing software on set with me, and I knew immediately, right after shooting like 3 or 4 takes, I just wanted to see it like immediately, since we weren't really in any rush. And I remember the reaction everybody had when I put like a rough cut of those 2 clips together was just like absolute cinema, right? So, you know, it's just like absolute cinema. So I'm really glad y'all asked about that particular moment, because I knew that that would get some really good audience reactions and would show off a really good sense of like editing skill. Because the thing is, like, and not to make this answer too long-winded in a sense, but the funny thing is, like, I always consider myself to be like a director and DP first, but editing was actually the first skill I ever picked up as a filmmaker. When I was first getting into film, the first 2 things I wanted to pick up were a MacBook Pro and Final Cut, which is what I used to edit the entire film, and in a sense that origin from editing kind of really showed itself here, and that's something I am quite proud of. So.
It's a very valuable skill.
Indeed.
We were also kind of curious if this was based on a true story or not.
Oh, say that again, sorry.
Was the film based on a true story?
Well, I would say it's based on a lot of true stories, and I'm sure about 96% of people have gone through, knowing most of y'all. I mean, we've all been students at some point, right? Always having to do a little buzzer beater, getting those assignments done, everything. See someone raise their hand. In fact, why don't everyone just raise their hands if they've had that experience in life?
When I was doing a buzzer beater.
Oh, sure. Yes, these are quite a few hands up, right? So, in a way, so my answer is yes, it is based on a true story. But I would say add an S at the end of stories.
Sure.
IES, but.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Jack, Matchmaker does so much with physical acting and the absence of dialogue. As a director, how did that change your approach?
It was strange because when we were writing the film, it had dialogue. We had 8, 9, 10 drafts. Every single one had dialogue in it. And each time, what I wanted out of it was for the dialogue to feel almost disconnected from the actions that are taking place and just add to the humor of the situation. But the more me and my writer did drafts, the more and more the words just weren't working. And then a good friend back home said, "Why don't you just get rid of the words then?" I said, "That's a great idea. Let's just get rid of the words." And then because the words were superfluous, I think I'm using that word correctly. The actions themselves carried the story by themselves, which I think more people need to trust in, because I've seen so many movies where it's a character describing what's going on, a character saying what they're doing, saying I'm going to go do this, and then saying what just happened. You need to be able to tell those things through actions and through movements and faces and music. That's the medium of film. That's why it exists. If you wanted to make a story with words and nothing happens, then you write a book. I think this is what the medium of film was made for. So that's how I like to think of everything I make, is the actions drive the story, and that's what makes it a movie.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great approach.
Well, and then Joey, for Denise, I know you were involved in some of the writing and the editing processes as well as acting. I really think that what stands out in that film for me is the editing and just the creativity in that post-production process. I was kind of curious about what some of your creative inspiration there was.
I'm trying to remember. I know we pulled an all-nighter one night in one of the editing labs here, and I feel like that's when we did a lot of it, and I probably couldn't tell you much about that night. But I know that I think we had some vision boards for some inspiration that we were kind of drawing from. We had, I think, Into the Spider-Verse, there's some kind of what's the word? Diagram? I don't know if it's diagrams or panoramas, but it's those little the little bubbles and things that kind of pop up. And I know there's a scene in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish where he has an anxiety attack, so we had that on our vision board. And scenes from Heartstopper that kind of blend animation and moving text kind of in the show to just heighten the emotions and stuff. So that's kind of a lot of where I think a lot of that inspiration came from, and then a lot of it was also just playing around and seeing what we liked and what we didn't like.
Yeah, trial and error is my editing process, so
Yes.
I get that.
Yes.
Well, I could sit up here talking, or I could ask if anybody else in the audience has any questions for our filmmakers.
Hey, my name's Brody, and I had a question for the creator of Matchmaker. How did you do the special effects for the gunshots?
That's a great question. I'd love to know the answer myself. We have this great guy named H, just the letter. He's awesome. All of the guns that we use are his, and all the effects that are done by him. He uses After Effects. He has a lot of great plugins, and then it's really, he just has a really great asset pack of good blood hits and muzzle flashes and stuff like that. I think he won a raffle through Corridor Digital. If people know that, he won a raffle with them, and then he got all their action asset packs or something. So I think I made a little copy myself. I might have them somewhere. But yeah, that was all him. Credits to him.
You got Dropbox?
Oh.
Ruby, I wanted to ask what your inspiration for Starburners was. I was really taken away by it.
I was collecting footage for a while. I had an older digital camera, I think from 2008 or so, that I've just been filming on, and I was really enjoying just zooming in all the way because it had kind of an insane zoom that would get pretty distorted at the end of it. And filming things to the point that you could not really recognize what they were anymore, but it got into this kind of nice pixelated colorful blur. And I've been building up just kind of like a stockpile of footage. And there is also imagery in the film that's recognizable, like plants. But I had a lot of that, and I knew that I wanted to make a film that was more abstract and just focused on kind of colors and have an original score. So that was my idea, and I stuck with that kind of nature theme as well as the textures.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, do you have any specific techniques to your story about that went into your pre-production process that ensured such beautiful cinematography?
Thank you for asking that question, because I have a, I think, very specific way I like to do things. About a couple months before we shot, me and both of my lead actors, one of which is sitting over here, his name is Kyle, we went to the location we were going to shoot at, which luckily is just a academic building on our campus, and we shot the entire thing on my iPhone, just the three of us. We went through all the actions, all the beats, all the moments, and I didn't have a shot list when we went in there. I just kind of made it up in that room, because I think that's the way I work best. There's no, there's no extra steps of setting up a camera, setting a light, making sure sound's ready. So any idea or movement I needed, I could just immediately, do. So basically, when we went to shoot the movie, we'd already shot it before. We had an entire cut of the movie shot on iPhone that we could look to for reference. And it was great for the actors too, because then I'd say, oh, we're gonna do this shot here. And they'd be like, what shot is that? I'm like, oh, it's this, and I'd show it to them. They'd say, oh yes, I remember that, yes. It was also great too, because we had a separate DIT and editor, where at the end of every day, he would come in and grab the footage, and he would then overlay the real footage over top of the iPhone footage. So then, as each day went on, I saw the, like the puzzle being completed more and more. Like we had, I know Kyle's really pissed at me for this, but we had an action sequence that we had to cut for time, but we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't have had that video board and then a separate person editing it after the fact. So that was a huge help. And do you have a follow-up? Was that?
Did you cut before or after the iPhone? Like, did you cut after the iPhone and before the actual shooting day, or did you cut afterwards?
No, because we this was another thing that kind of screwed us, was none of the action was designed by myself. We have a faculty member there who used to do a lot of stunt work. His name's Pops. He's awesome. And he did all the choreo, and he did all the stunt safety on set. The plan was to do, to choreograph it beforehand, obviously, and then shot us off of that. But he's a busy guy, and we were planning on doing it the week before we shot, but Hurricane Helene happened, and that's like, we're in Western Carolina, right next to Asheville. So we got slammed, we got shut down, so we ran out of time completely, and we had to basically make up the action on the day. Which I think it turned out fine, but I think it looked good, and he did a great job. So those parts of the movie we could not shoot beforehand, but again, I'm glad we had an editor in DIT cutting that together for us, because I wouldn't have known that wouldn't have worked. So that was super helpful. That was maybe, I think, the most prepared I've ever felt for any shoot day. It was great.
Hi, I'd like to ask about When Time Stands Still. I've been to a lot of Reel Teals, and I was struck by just how powerful a film it was for Reel Teal especially. It was really moving, it was excellent. If I noted correctly in the credits, it looked like you had a consultant, a counselor, I think. Could you talk a little bit about how you engaged that person and what that working relationship was like?
Yeah, so actually our professor, Barry Thornburg, his wife, Shalissa, was a mental health consultant, and she offered to him and he offered to us that if we wanted to speak to her about how to approach this topic, she was open. So we were able to have a Zoom call with her that lasted about an hour, And she kind of took us through the steps on how we should approach these questions with them and how we could then turn those into something cinematic and without really crossing any boundaries or asking the same questions over and over again. So she kind of helped us with that. And we didn't really write a script for this documentary. We kind of just wrote down questions and we sat down. Actually, where we filmed that was the lobby of one of our academic buildings because our original shooting location didn't work. So we sat down in the lobby and we had those questions already pre-written out that we drafted and changed and went through about 4 or 5 times. And she approved them, we approved them, and we kind of just made sure we approached it with grace. And we were lucky to have that help from her and that we had that resource readily available from our professor.
I have a bit of a 2-part question for Dom. I was curious, the tricking event that you and your team go to, I was wondering what makes it exactly the most, or one of the most prestigious tricking events and the biggest tricking events in the world, and if there is a process to get in. I was curious about how you and your team got there.
So I call it one of the biggest in the world because of its prize pool. For the past 3 years or so, they had prize pools of up to $10,000 or so, and the way they did that was through if this was the main gathering, they had a bunch of mini ones throughout where they used the ticket sales for that to put into the prize pool, which I think is cool. And then when it comes to qualifying for those tournaments and stuff, a lot of the times they do preliminary battles the night before the actual bracket starts. And so the stuff that you see in the beginning in that first montage, you understand. That's what the preliminaries are. I competed in that, but I didn't really make it anywhere. I got 1 vote from my buddy Thorne. But yeah, that's kind of what you'll see in a bunch of gatherings throughout the country, and honestly, you'll see it over in Japan and Norway and Amsterdam as well, where they do preliminaries. But some organizations are getting to the point where they're doing separate gatherings where the people that qualify in those get to qualify in later tournaments as well.
Dom, where in New Jersey did you guys have the vertigo? Because that's where I'm from, and I was watching that, and at the wobble you pulled up, swear to God, I was like, that's my hometown. So I was really confused and really not hoping it wasn't, but low-key I would love to know.
It was about 2 hours away from Wabble in East Brunswick.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm not from East Brunswick, but I live about 25 minutes from there. So the Wawa you stopped at probably was the one in my town, even though there's 1 million. Wow. But I was having more flashbacks. I was I know this apartment.
Oh no, we always have a Wawa trip.
I love Wawa. I yearn for Wawa when I'm here.
I have another very random specific location question. Was that the Enzo Movement gym in Raleigh?
Yes.
I went there for a year and a half in high school. Yeah, I did parkour there when I was 14.
Awesome.
I saw y'all pull up to it, and I'm like, there's no way it's the same place.
No, it's the same place.
That's amazing. I saw that, I was freaking out. I was like, no way. I know that place. I went there. I don't know, I thought that was cool.
I had a question regarding When Time Stands Still. I was so floored by the progression that the narrative took. I found it so well organized, and there was so much continuity to the way that you kind of slowly revealed information and kind of built up the story in this world, this family has experienced. How did you approach in the editing room? Because I know you said you didn't have a script in mind, you kind of just went with the footage. How did you guys approach that in the editing room, building that arc that you guys did? Because I thought it was really, really, really well done.
So we didn't have a traditional kind of script, but we did do a 2-column script, or we tried to at least. And when we originally wrote it out, we were so lucky that we were able to get that pre-interview in, because we had the voice memo of that, so we were able to take that and break that apart to help us as well. Also, Adriana, our editor, was just fantastic. She put her blood, sweat, tears, everything into that edit. And she was kind of like nitpicky with the edit, so that translated into making sure the narrative was perfect as well. And we kind of wanted it to be some sort of, we wanted that shock value to happen, because I already knew the story because I not lived it like they did, but I lived it with him. And for Brady and Adriana, like when they heard what had happened, like that shock to them was the biggest part. So we wanted to keep that, because when we started interviewing them and asking those questions that we had already pre-formatted, we were alluding to what had happened in our questions without actually directly saying that, so that allowed for the allusions to be in their answers as well, especially because they talk about it a lot. We were able to coach them through that, so that helped us with the edit. I think our filming of the interview was also, and Brady, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think was about like 2 hours as well of just straight an interview, and that also helped because we had that master shot and the 2 side shots because we did multicam to kind of help us with that continuity. But it was Adriana just kind of like going crazy in our editing rooms, and I mean, she's phenomenal. I can ring her praises all day long, but yeah, that was kind of, we wanted that shock value to happen, and luckily it translated through, so we wanted that because that was what it was like to them. They didn't know it was a suicide till they went back and kind of sat with the idea and sat with the story of Gabe and what was going through that day and what was happening in his life. And when they found his old letters and stuff, they kind of realized that that's potentially what had happened because it was so violent, and the cops said they've never seen anything like it before. So like they put those pieces together themselves, so we wanted the audience to be able to do that as well.
Hey, I got a question for Dom. What is it that got you into tricking, and what martial art would you recommend like you learn in order to try to get into that?
You'll love to hear this. The thing I wanted to do that got me into tricking was wanting to be a stunt performer. I started off with Taekwondo as a kid, and in this documentary I show a bunch of different backgrounds that people do, and a lot of them are martial arts based, and I would say Taekwondo is a good start, but then also Wushu, Capoeira, Karate, a lot of those have the same acrobatic elements. Not the same, but similar acrobatic elements. But a lot of the people that I know who take up tricking, especially in Japan, are gymnasts. Gymnasts are really good at tricking, translates pretty well, maybe not the kicks. And then also dancers, I find, are really good at kind of getting those movements to translate. I don't know if that answered your whole question or not. No, that's perfect. Awesome, cool.
I had a question for Ruby. I know the only 2 credits you had on your film were yourself and a composer. How early in your process did you involve the music in the writing of it, and how did that impact the visuals after that?
I did an entire cut of the film before music was added, I believe. I think I had maybe like one segment where I was like, there's going to be something here, but it's not quite done. But I wanted to have the full like duration, so at least like we would know how long the music needed to be. But yeah, that was from the start. I knew I would be working with Miles. We wanted to collaborate on a film together. So I would send him little snippets, and he got kind of an idea of what it was going to look like. But then yeah, once the full like kind of rough cut was finished, I sent it to him, and he started working on the music.
A lot of you guys had like composed music on your films. Where do you find a composer, or how do you meet these people and work with them properly?
Well, my film didn't actually have any like original compositions, but in general, like there's a lot of really good like kind of, if you're looking for like music for like any future film, then there's a lot of really good like databases for like copyright free sort of tracks you can find to accompany the music, accompany the film. The 2 that I found, actually, this is more something that my buddy Mason did, because he was involved in the sound department for this particular film, but he's very good at looking for tracks that kind of fit the mood on like a couple of like databases that you will have to pay, I believe, monthly for, but I mean, if you have the tracks downloaded, I mean, no one can take them away from you, so But I'd say just like, although original compositions are really good for especially a lot of people on a budget, right? In general, I think little places like Storyblocks, Audio, they're kind of like your best friend sometimes, so I would definitely recommend those. Go right ahead.
Before I did film, I actually did a little bit of music production in high school. I don't call myself a music producer though, just because it doesn't really count. It feels in high school. I personally feel like learning about music and learning how to produce music is similar to learning how to do film. There's a different kind of touch that's needed, but technically speaking, there's a lot of the same kind of artistic abilities that are needed to sort of make your own thing. I've never done music composition, but I know a bunch of people who do music that you'd be able to just ask. It's kind of like any other kind of networking thing in film. If you just know someone that can make music, just commission them or give them a favor, and they might do that.
I would also say if you have like family members that are like really well versed in music, like don't feel afraid to also reach out to them. Like I'm actually doing this for another future project of mine pretty soon, and I actually worked on a film about 2 years ago where my co-director is, I believe, cousins, if I'm not mistaken. He's up there, by the way. My buddy Tommy, and he, was able to get a few tracks from him within the span of, I believe it was a few weeks that ended up.
Just a couple weeks.
Yeah,
which.
which.
I know the right people, I guess, and just network around. That was kind of just lucky, man. She's just really talented.
Yeah, that's true. But I think a lot of people definitely. I don't want to like say everybody because obviously this is like a lot of it is luck for sure. So, but I would say that there's probably a good amount of people here that do have like relatives that are at least doing some form of music in a sense. Maybe they just formed a little high school band or something, or maybe they're been playing the guitar for maybe like 20 years, something like that. In general, like I'd say, don't be afraid to reach out to them, possibly, and maybe in a couple weeks you'll have a few original tracks and don't have to deal with copyright, which would be just wonderful, So.
Can I steal the microphone?
Go right ahead.
So this campus seems pretty big from like the couple hours I've been here, but my favorite thing to do is utilize my campus resources. Everybody, just as eager as we are to make things, so are the people that are around your campus. So, the theater department, the music department, everyone is so eager and so willing to help because they want to be as successful as you are. So luckily, I'm involved in our theater and dance department, and I have some great friends. But that only started because I got on my knees and begged and pleaded for help. But I also realized that if I am this excited to make something, they are also as excited to make their own things. And I again utilize those campus resources. The worst they can do is say no, and if they say no, it's their loss because you could blow up and be big and be crazy, and then they're like, oh darn, I missed out on my opportunity. But beg and plead, use your campus resources, find those groups of people that are willing and able and might not know how to put themselves out there. You can put yourself out there to them, and that could lead to relationships beyond college.
I was just going to add one more thing real quick. Facebook groups are amazing. The Facebook group that's been the most useful to me is NC Filmmakers and Actors, and if you just post in there, I'm looking for a composer, anybody interested, you'll probably get a lot of bites, because those groups are very active. I've met a ton of people through them and gotten a lot of work from them, so, yeah.
I have a question for Jack. Hearing that there were 10 previous drafts of this film, and then with the title and some of the tone and tension, I was just wondering if there was ever a draft where it was more romantically realized. It seemed like that was sort of building. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like there was a bit of romantic tension.
No, that's a great question. When conceived, there was no romance intended. It was purely bromance. It's a big fan of RRR. love that. But you could also assume there's some tension there. You could infer something if you'd like. But it was funny. The more and more we worked on it, the more and more we shot, the more and more like there's a little something weird going on. Not weird. There's something different. Something we weren't really expecting. Which I think I like the turnout, because I mean I wouldn't want it to be. I think it's more interesting if it's not one way or the other. You know, it could be inferred if you so prefer, and I think that makes more people enjoy it. It makes people like, it's like, oh, it should have been, or like, it's like, oh no, that was great. You know, it's they like it. They like it either way. But I think leaving the audience wanting more and leaving the audience have their own thoughts and decisions and ideas on it, I think is much more interesting. But no, that was never an intention. But many people have thought.
I have a question about Broken Fairy Tale. What went into making the final sequence where you're lying on the ground and it cuts to the crown, papers flying, just in general, the final sequence?
Thank you for asking. So much work. So the scene where I was lying on the ground, that was one of the shots that I really wanted to get from the beginning, but we kind of had run out of time, so I was actually completely by myself in the castle at that point. And I set the camera up, and then it was so dark and late and creepy there, but I had to shoot it like 14 times because the focus was off. It was disastrous. But anyway, I did that, and then some of the shots were more complicated than they might have looked. Like, there's one shot, which is like 2 seconds, but I spent so much time on it, where like a book, a feather, and all these papers are all falling at once in the frame. So that one, we threw them until we finally got them right, and then I edited them all together into one shot in post. And one of the things that was the most useful for putting together this sequence is that we had filmed it on 3 half days that were really spread apart. So I edited along the way as I went, and then I could see what pieces I wanted to add or what was missing. But I suppose, like, largely it was figuring it out and editing, just throwing things together, seeing what worked, because I really wanted to capture, like, the feeling of all the emotions swirling and, like, yeah. How does that answer your question? Thanks.
Hi, I have a question for Ruby. So I really loved your font choices. I'm a big typography fan, and I just wanted to ask a little bit about that process. I know, like, when I'm looking at fonts, I like scroll for hours and hours, and I like get 1 million font ideas, but I feel like your selection really clicked so perfectly with your film, and I just want to know kind of about your process with the fonts.
Yeah, I really love fonts, so that's a fun question to ask. It's been like an interest of mine since I was like a small child. That font was called Argent Pixel. I'd used it on another film before. I'm pretty sure the composer Miles actually showed it to me before. I'm pretty sure it's an Adobe font that you can get if you have access to an Adobe account. But that one just felt right. I really like how it looks in italic. It gives it like a little bit more of a curve, so it's a little bit softer, but it's also pixelated, so it fits really well. It is like pixelated, I didn't do that myself. And then I think there were a few shots where I added a bit of a distortion, so just the edges are like a little bit, they're not as like crisp as they would have been, but I liked having just kind of like one font throughout, and in the end, it's also, I just created shapes like through masking with the pen tool, and then I used footage from earlier in the film. So there's like some green and blue kind of coming through in the words that say video and audio, and then the rest is like a normal font.
I have a question for Melanie. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you wrote the music for the music video and you acted in it and directed it and edited it?
Yes.
Okay.
The video was also, I should say, my friend Paulina Kisol and my friend Amanda Michaela, they helped me with like everything. They were the best. So basically it was the 3 of us who pretty much made the whole thing.
That's awesome. So did you find like juggling all those roles to be more like effective in creating your vision, or do you find that overwhelming to have such a like big role in your project?
It was disastrously hard. I don't recommend it. It's very difficult. If some of the benefits of it are that when you're filming by yourself for certain things, it's a lot easier to be very emotional and get into a feeling as an actor. But having somebody else there that can take part of your brain over, you know, to help you set up the shots and everything makes a huge difference, because then you can focus on the performance aspect of it. So that's something I've largely done since I was a kid, because I get scared to ask people for help. But I'm glad I learned a lot. But yeah, I definitely think it's better to have some friends you trust and work hard on it together.
I have a question for Dom regarding the visual language of your documentary. You seamlessly bounced between almost like a vlog style to narration to archival footage, like the Juju Movie and all that other stuff that you found online. I'm curious, what intentional choices did you make in seamlessly bouncing between those, as well as visually? There was the aspect ratio changes, and what looked like film emulation was more present in some places and less in others.
That's kind of a loaded question, but I like that question a lot because I did put a lot of thought into that. I got like really into like the rounded corners with like soft edges. I kind of just like that look. And I wanted this to kind of feel sort of nostalgic, kind of, because there's a lot of history behind tricking, and it's something that even if you didn't know the name of it beforehand, you still know a lot of the history behind, or you don't know the history behind it. But you know it exists, you just can't really put a name or like you'd call it parkour. That's why there's that one video of like someone saying, I do parkour, and then like flying through the air, different sport guys. But I also wanted to be able to kind of distinguish between when the interviews are happening, when the flashbacks would happen, and then when kind of like my own personal kind of experience with it is taking place with some of the B-roll. And so for that, I did kind of more of a 16:9 for the stuff that I recorded that was in the interviews, and then the interviews I had in that kind of almost 4:3 aspect ratio to also give it that nostalgic feel, kind of like you're talking to somebody that you would trust to give you information on something. That, but also I like the framing of kind of singling out one person instead of having a frame, because I interviewed like multiple people at a time. Like I would walk up to 3 of my friends who were kind of hugging like this, going like that, and if I only wanted to interview one or get like footage of one person, then I would just cut it in like that or crop it in, and then it's a lot more, I guess, personable, I'd say.
Well, watching all your guys' projects is really an amazing experience, and something that I think us as viewers forget is that filmmaking is an experience in itself. So this is really a question for you guys all. What is one thing that you experienced while making your project, whether it was something that was hard that you got over, or a funny moment, or just something introspective that you will carry on with you in your film careers?
Do you want to start down there or down here?
Whoever has
Okay,
it.
awesome.
Could go.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Awesome. I'll start. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm starting. I'm trying to think. I think there's definitely 2 things I learned during this entire process. And one, I guess the biggest one, obviously with our film dealing with such a sensitive topic, was making sure I didn't let my own personal feelings and my own personal struggles bleed into someone else's story. Because as humans, we all struggle with our own issues, and I know personally I've struggled with my own mental health issues, and I had to make sure that, not really that I kept those at bay, but I let the authentic story from Lee and Gil be shown through. And something more, I guess, lighthearted was, because this was for a class, like, yes, we all know each other, we're kind of a tight-knit department, but it was kind of, how the class worked was everyone pitched something, and then we did a vote, and the top 4 that won were the 4 that we made, and you were given groups of 3. And all 4 of us that were chosen to make documentaries were put in the 4 corners of the room after we were playing like heads up, and you just kind of walked over to who you wanted to work with, and for the first 15 minutes that we were chosen, no one walked up to me. It was really humbling. But then my professors, I don't know, they have like some sort of like, I don't even know, like they're just powerful together, the 2 of them. And they took Adriana and they took Brady and they put us in a group and they went, you 3, that's gonna work. And I looked at them and I said, are you sure? Because Adriana was graduating that December, Brady's the treasurer of our SGA, and I was the vice president of my sorority at the time of us making it. And I was like, how are we all gonna find time for us all to sit and make this documentary on top of everything that we already do? And somehow all of us being perfectionists and so busy lended to like the perfect storm of us all working together. And at first it's like, this is just not gonna work. Like we're never gonna be able to coordinate this. Like this is terrible. And then it just ended up working perfectly and it was great. So it was kind of like adversity through that, which was so fun.
Bit more of a boring answer, but I've learned a lot about editing through doing experimental filmmaking, because so much of that is just done like in the post-production process of taking things I've already gathered and putting them together, and that's really helped me a lot in other work that I've done, even like a more conventional narrative film. I'm a lot more comfortable with editing and like rhythm of that.
Well, in terms of what I've learned on the set, I would say, in a sense, like one thing that I sort of was reminded of when on the set was actually more so about time, because I think that when we all start making films, I think one of the quickest things we do learn is just about how time can sometimes be a worse enemy, where, you know, you're shooting in daylight, you're losing light, and you just have to like get, you know, shot after shot out, and it's like, you know, it's like a rush, you know. So like we actually kind of experienced that a little bit on set when we did the beach scenes. Wasn't too much of a hurry, like compared to, you know, certain other sets, but it certainly was. It certainly was there, and it's just good to, you know, be reminded of that, you know, before it, you know, really hits you like a truck when you're like trying to shoot something much bigger in a sense. But I think another thing I sort of learned during the post-production process of this film, and this is actually going to get into actually something a little bit serious, because about just post-production, saying that in a sense it's a good change of pace from production and even pre-production in a lot of ways, because unless you're under a certain deadline, like it's one of those processes that like you can kind of work at your own pace, which is really nice. And the main way that this whole thing actually really benefited me in particular, because I was editing this, is literally the day after we shot this film, I suddenly suffered a seizure while eating out with a friend of mine. In fact, that friend of mine is actually in this room right now. His name is Orlando. Shout out to him. He was there on the scene, and he was a big help during that moment. So was my buddies Tommy, DC, and Johnny. They were all there at the hospital. It was amazing. Well, I wouldn't say amazing for sure, but you know, it was a crazy experience that it actually caused that I suffered a painful back injury as a result. And so for the time being, I had to put this film on the back burner for a little bit so I could recover. And it was a very traumatic experience in a lot of ways. And so when I felt comfortable with just doing basic tasks again, like I was still in the early stages of recovery, in a weird way, like I kind of still had like a good a good, like, I still remember like kind of the roadmap to getting this film edited in the best way possible, in a sense. We did a lot of sound design, which was a lot of fun. I think sound design, I just gotta give a shout out to, one of the most underrated parts of film by far. Just recording sound effects is really fun. In fact, one story I love to always talk about is that the sound I got when the hourglass was with like the hourglass there. What I did was I recorded me pouring a pack of oats into a pot, which I think worked pretty well in that sense. But in a way, that experience and sort of like reminded me again of just how nice of a change of pace editing really is, from being on set and having to really work against a schedule. Of course, this will change over time when you have to comply with deadlines, of course. But in student productions like this, it's like, it's chill, you know, is the best way I can describe it. So again, sorry about the long-winded answer, but you know, definitely some lessons learned that I think can be valuable to any aspiring filmmakers who are listening right now. So yeah.
There's a filmmaker, her name is Maddie Reagan, and one thing that she taught me when I was in her class was that a film is not done being written until it hits someone else's screen or something along those lines. And that goes with documentary, that goes with narrative. Can't say much for experimental or music video or animation, or probably animation, but I would say experimental as well, maybe. But I went into my documentary wanting to do just like a vlog for my YouTube channel. I thought that was going to be like really fun, and like our community's been missing a lot of long form content because everyone's trying to do reels now. And so I went into doing that, and then I was also in a documentary class at the time, and there was like, and I didn't have like a subject for that. I didn't know what I was going to do for that. So I was like, wait, I'll just kill two birds with one stone, and thus I did. But because of that, I didn't really have any questions prepared at all for anyone. I didn't know what I was going to make this story about at all. I was kind of just going to be like, hey guys, this is what my community is about. Like, we just kind of go here and we do flips and stuff. It's, you know, it's fun. There's loud music. You get overwhelmed easily. But then, like, with the clip of Kajihara getting injured, and then also me interviewing him beforehand, like 2 hours beforehand, of him saying, like, yeah, I haven't really dealt with a lot of injuries. There's a lot of kind of overlap there, and I was like, I could make a story out of this. And so I put it together in that way. And again, just to rephrase it, or just to say it again, your film isn't done being written until it's someone else's screen. Best piece of advice I've ever got.
Oh my god! Sorry, I feel like I yawn when I'm nervous. So sorry about that. Anyways, me and my friend like encountered like so many probably like things that we learned. Like, I feel like we were constantly just learning while making this film the whole entire time. But I think probably for me, what was the most like kind of important and crucial thing was just like self-confidence and like personal growth. I'm kind of like I still feel like I'm new to acting, and I definitely felt like with this film it was definitely more of a challenging thing for me. So I just really wanted to, I knew that I can do it, and that I was like I can do it and do a good job, and I felt like I really just wanted to prove to myself that I could, when I had, of course, that voice in my head that's like, no, you can't do it, you suck. But you know, so yeah, I guess like that was like the biggest thing for me, and then I did it, and like even in those moments when we were filming, like I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it, and like it was great, and that just like, you know, really helps self-confidence and everything.
You were great as Gary. Thank you.
To verify, the question was, what did we learn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something you would tell like an aspiring filmmaker.
I was like, what's like the biggest takeaway?
Okay.
Or one thing you take with you in the future, whether
or something you learned, just like a fun experience?
Yeah. I mean, when I look back on it, I mean, we filmed this in, it was 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. I look back and I just remember all the small anecdotes that happened. I remember the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight was happening during the shoot, and it was playing in Video Village, and everyone got really distracted, and our AD was really pissed. I remember we showed up on like day 3, and all of the lights were on when they shouldn't have been. Like we had to call a power plant next door. I remember all these things, but then I also I remember the thing I take away from it most is the reminder of why I do this. It's something I feel like I'm addicted to. I see myself doing this for the rest of my life, and I think it's especially because this movie is especially important to me because I know it's something that I am the most passionate about, that I have 20, 30, maybe arguably 40 people backing me on, and all of them are close friends and people I will hopefully work with for the rest of my life. That's my biggest takeaway, is that these are the people who believe in me, and they want me to thrive, and they care for me, and they want to see me win. And I think that's the most important part, because if you don't have those people, then you don't have a movie. Yeah, that's what I think about when I think about this.
So my favorite part of every film shoot is the funny moments in between takes and the things that go wrong that end up being just hilarious stories. So for this one, I wouldn't say it was hilarious, but when we were leaving, we were trying to go back to Greensboro, but I don't know what we did. We hit something wrong on the GPS, and we wound up in Virginia. And then, it was so late at night, but we found a Chinese restaurant that was open, and then we had some amazing Chinese food, so now we're like, we gotta go back to Danville. And then I had mentioned I was filming that one scene by myself, alone in the castle, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the dark mountain by myself, I have no weapons. I was looking around, I was like, okay, I got a screwdriver. So I put that in my top, and then I was recording the song, and I was in the middle of and I was like, oh, and threw it out, because I realized I recorded the thing with the screwdriver in. So I thought that was funny. Let me think about takeaways. I think the biggest thing is, no matter what your limitations are, just do it. Just make it happen. This is something that I would have been too afraid to take on if I hadn't, honestly, I was about to cut all my hair off, and I was like, I gotta do this before I chop all my hair off. So that's why I did this when I did. But you would be amazed what people are willing to help you with and what they're willing to do when you ask. And so we had an amazing time doing this. It was really I made a big behind the scenes video of it, and I was editing it oh my gosh, I'm living the life I always wanted to. I can't believe I get to do something so cool and with people that are fun. So yeah, I would say the biggest thing is just do it. Just make it happen. You would be amazed what you can accomplish.
Wow, thank you. Big thank you to all of our panelists. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making it out. I'm going to send you guys back up to your seats, and we're going to announce our awards.
Thanks for having us.
Clap your hands.